After 3 rounds of fantastic racing, the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League heads to Virginia International Raceway, a 17-turn road course that is narrow, fast, and extremely technical. And tonight, we race again for 25 minutes with the Kia Optima, the Ford FR500 Mustang, and the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. My name is Kyle Heyer alongside Finian Nakuna, and this is Sim TV. And tonight we got a special guest, and we're also alongside Dominic Mandul, who's with us again in the booth as always. But Finian, going to be a spectacular night of racing, and looking forward to watching these guys tear up VIR.
Yeah, just halfway through the season now at this point, and yeah, here we are at VIR. It's a pretty tricky track for a lot of these drivers, and the points race is heating up, but we can quickly go through it. In the Kia class, it's going to be led by DJ Alessandrini, who's been having an absolutely phenomenal season. He's just been pretty much the guy to beat week in, week out for the overall victory. Then Ken Alceo, Darren Treacle is going to be your top 3. In the Ford Mustang, it's going to be Christopher Lapras, Forrest Landy, Dave Fitzgerald, and then the MX-5 class is heated up quite a bit after Paul Darling had a pretty bad time last week, lost a lot of points that he could have gotten. So it's heating up between Paul Darling, Elias Roman, and Dennis Barrett, your top 3 there. Absolutely.
So we've seen some spectacular racing so far at New Jersey Motorsports Park. We saw a lot of carnage there. That was a fun race for sure in the proverbial wet. But we had to VIR Finian, a very narrow racetrack, and this place is known for being very technical. We were just here for the Spec MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge last week. They put on a great show, especially because those low-powered MX-5s love the draft. We're going to see more of that tonight. Also, though, if you look at the conditions, 76 in the air, 119 on the racetrack, extremely hot, extremely slick. But while we're here in qualifying, the Kias and the Mustangs are out on track. We do have a special guest tonight, and that special guest is Mark Liller, one of the assistant directors of road racing at the DC Region SCCA. Mark, welcome, and you got a couple awesome things coming up with the competition school coming in a few weeks.
Hey, thanks for having me tonight. Yeah, so we're going to be kicking off the season pretty shortly here. We're going to have the road racing driver school coming up shortly in March. Looking forward to that. And then Mars 1's going to kick off just soon after that. So that's the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series. Looking forward to getting the season started. I'm glad to see you guys are down at VIR tonight. Definitely going to be interested in seeing some good competition here. SCCA is obviously having the runoffs there this year, so definitely a lot of us are looking forward to getting some seat time, both online and in person, so should be a lot of fun.
You mentioned seat time, Mark, and that's one of the interesting things about iRacing. We were just talking prior to the broadcast that you had experience in iRacing and thought it was difficult, especially lacking that seat of the pants feel. So we know that a lot of times we've seen in the past that drivers can go from the sim to the real world with a little bit of practice, but sometimes coming from the real world back to the sim is a little bit harder because you don't have that feedback there. But what can you learn from a simulated environment like iRacing, and what is it really good for in the grand scheme of auto racing?
Sure. So I'm definitely an interesting example of that. When I was younger, I started driving like Gran Turismo and various online games like that. I found it to be very useful because you could definitely practice, especially if you had a steering wheel set up and whatnot. You could drive the line, get a feel for the brake zones, just the different limits that you could do with the car. You don't get the car control seat of the pants type feel like you're talking about, but you really can hone in those skills and figure out, exactly the line of the track, different features and characteristics, especially with iRacing. They've done a great job with the laser scanning for all the tracks. So I did iRacing briefly many years ago now, but my job doesn't really let me participate in these events in the evenings. I actually just got off work a little bit ago. So I have to bide my time, wait for the season to start, and then join everybody. But for those that can do the online means and different varieties there, I definitely recommend it. It's just anything to really engage the senses and kind of do that rote memorization of, what do I need to do as a driver? I don't want to really be actively having to think about everything I do on track. And I just want that to be kind of second nature to myself. And that's really where it comes into play and can benefit.
Well, you mentioned the senses, Mark, and it's an interesting topic because obviously you're missing that feeling, the seat of the pants feel that we talk about, but you still have your eyes, you still have your ears, and you still have the feeling of touch through the force feedback steering wheels. So does that kind of heighten your senses and your sensitivity to those sort of things? And does it become a different kind of skill and a different kind of strategy driving around a racetrack with just your vision and hearing?
That's an interesting question. I'd say there's nuances that are subtle to each one. But technology is definitely getting better. I've also tried out things like Oculus Rift and found that the visual senses are actually way stronger than I would have initially thought. Just having something like VR engaged, as soon as the car starts over rotating, you can really pick that sense up just visually and start correcting based on that. So they're not as far apart as you might think. I think everybody also has their own kind of differences in terms of what they're comfortable with or what they're able to pick up and do with it. But there's really a lot of overlap to where it's starting to get harder to discern the differences in just those types of characteristics between the two, I think.
We've also seen an increasing role in esports in this kind of level of competition with such series like Spec MX5, the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, and also the SCCA just announced a couple days ago that they're joining and partnering with iRacing for a Spec Racer Ford Championship there. So how do you feel like, is esports and iRacing a good place to foster new and young and fresh talent to the motor racing world, or is it just kind of a game that is just good for fun and maybe a little bit of training?
No, I definitely think there's a lot of value to be had there. So there's a lack of risk. You don't have to worry about bending up sheet metal and things like that. So you can definitely really go 10/10 and even push it over the limit in a nice, safe environment. You don't have to worry about the consequences so much. There's safety aspects like that. There's the financial impacts. So if you're a lot younger, you're interested in trying things out, that avenue can be more readily accessible to the younger audiences. As a means of practice if you're already involved in real life and things like that. But it's not just a supplemental anymore, I don't think. Like you're saying with esports, it's really getting huge. And the translation between like going from esports into real life is a real thing. It's evidenced all over the place as this really starts to become a much bigger facet into motorsports in general. So I think it's very, very valuable.
Well said. And Dominic Mandiel with us again. Dominic, we've seen some spectacular racing this season, but VIR, very technical, very tricky. We've seen it be a challenge in the past. What are you expecting out of tonight's race with this multi-class format?
So Kyle, I think that with these classes, as we've seen with the tracks we visited so far, the intermingling always gets interesting because the cars find their strengths in different parts of the course, and some of the cars are better in the corners and some are better on the straights. So a lot of times you create this accordion effect and compression where the cars will catch up to the ones in front, and then under braking they'll all come together again. And so that creates a bit of a challenge for these drivers to be able to navigate with other cars, and more importantly with different stature cars, where in our case the MX-5s are dwarfed by the Mustangs and the Kias. So it's important that everyone plays well and make sure that they're looking in their mirrors and out front as well.
I'm going to bounce right off that and back to Mark again. Mark, Dominic mentioned the multi-class interaction. And obviously, the SCCA offers a bunch of different kinds of racing, but multi-class racing is definitely a multifaceted kind of a style, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to be good at it, and a lot of training and a lot of know-how. And do you feel like sim racing is a place where that's especially good to learn? Because, like you mentioned, there's not that financial aspect of messing something up and ruining someone else's day.
Yeah, definitely. So mixed class racing is, some people really like it and some people really do not. It's good to practice because it's one of those things where in real life, given the numbers of racers, depending on the venue and circumstances, one of the only options is to do mixed class racing. So the only time that we typically will end up seeing the single classes run will be at something like the Runoffs itself. Otherwise, you're dealing with there's a number of examples right now in SCCA where they try to balance it based on performance so that, one class is typically faster than another. But there's a lot of cases. Personally, I race STU, and we're grouped up at the national level with T2, and frequently the overlap between T2 and STU is almost identical. So that can be very tricky too, because you're not actually trying to race those other cars in that class, but inevitably you're stepping on each other in different parts of the track. So it's something that you want to be cognizant of, and getting practice having that type of overlap is definitely a good thing to do.
Absolutely. And Finian, again, where you just saw the Kias and Mustangs pull into their pit stalls, and Ken Seal will take pole in the Kia category by 97 thousandths of a second over DJ Alessandrini. That's pretty phenomenal. But take a look at Christopher Lapras again on pole in the big bore category with Michael Monaghan right behind.
Yeah, indeed, and yeah, as you're doing that interview, both the Kia and the Mustang class have qualified, and now it's time for the MX-5s to take their turn to the track for another 10 minutes.
Tyler Stewart, the 25, making his way around on the warm-up lap, but just up the road, there's a bunch of cars that are practicing for, they're getting in a draft here, and Mark, drafting, very important in all forms of racing, but especially in the lower-powered cars. Any nuances you can learn in the sim that you can take over to the real life, especially with just with the lower-powered cars?
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, drafting's definitely one of those things where, in all things else being equal in some spec classes, that can be the make it or break it scenario. So, especially on a track like VIR, the long back straight, the front straight as well, you definitely want to take advantage of that. Timing is really the crucial element. So, if you can get it all down well, you can just barely get around one of your competitors, close the door on them as you approach one of the braking zones and into the corners, and then seal the deal so that they don't just repeat the process on you. So,
absolutely. So drafting, we've seen that be very important. It was very important last week, the Spec MX-5 race at VIR Finian, when we saw it was DJ Alessandrini and Matt Busa in race 2 coming down the long back straightaway. How do you set yourself up, Finian, for this last lap?
Really, I think the key is just making sure that you get a good run on these long straightaways, especially coming out of Oak Tree. If you can set up a good run, you can use the draft help and maybe to kind of to be able to slingshot around the driver and try to get at least side by side with him as they head off into roller coaster. I think that's definitely going to be one of the major passing opportunities, especially on the last lap.
Another advantage I feel, Mark, about sim racing in general is the ability just to hop into pretty much any race car. And I think a lot of times you hear about, when you're playing baseball when you're real young, you use a heavier bat to practice your swing so that when you swing the real bat, it's a lot easier. Is that something you can do here? Get in a real high horsepower car and go rip out some laps and get in a slower car and kind of train yourself up to something like that? Or is that not necessarily transferable to racing?
No, I think you could probably do that. And definitely in the safer environment, that would be something you would want to do. You don't have to purchase something crazy, ridiculous, expensive to do that. Typically, the way that people will view it, though, is you want to race something as least powerful as possible, and then you wring out every ounce of performance out of that vehicle. And then when you translate that over inevitably to something faster, you understand all those nuances, and you can get that out of there. Yeah, that's probably all I have to say about that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about here, Finian. Especially, I think one of the advantages of iRacing is just, just for the fun factor is that you can jump into any car that you want that iRacing has, which is, I think, over, what, 60?
I think 70 at this
70
point.
something?
80 maybe.
80 different cars, and you don't have to go spend 40, 50, 60 grand to get yourself a track car, that is as capable as these are. Obviously, very different scenario, very different situation. You don't have that seat of the pants feel, but you can, load up a Ford GTE and rip around Imola if you want to, if that's your cup of tea. So iRacing offers that as an advantage, but again, I don't think anything is ever truly going to replace the real thing. It's just another tool in the driver's toolkit to use.
Yeah, indeed, and especially I think, again, racing is a unique thing, especially sim racing in general, too, is that it's a very unique thing in esports, because you see a lot of other esports, like, League of Legends, Dota, Call of Duty, things like that. And it's obviously not anywhere near close to the real thing, especially even in the sports games too, like FIFA, Madden, those types of games. You're playing with a controller or what have you. You're not actually kicking a ball or throwing a football. But here, we're driving on wheels with pedals with shifters, the whole 9 yards. And some people will have full motion rings, some people have VR and things like that. And it gets really close to the real life thing, other than the fact you don't have the seat of the pants feel, which is probably one of the biggest differences between the two. But again, it's very close on a lot of things we have seen transfer over, and there's starting to be a market for esports drivers to move up into real life, and people are in real life teams are looking at that.
Well, I'll give you an example. Is William Byron in the NASCAR Xfinity Series is or actually no, not in the Xfinity Series. He's in the Cup Series now
with Hendrick Motorsports too. He's with a big tier team.
Yeah, basically he's driving the number 24 car that used to be Jeff Gordon's, and William Byron started his racing career on the iRacing platform, and so that goes to show you that with the right support team behind you, and with the obviously a very high amount of talent and skill, you can climb your way up the ladder. But Mark, I'll leave you with this one last question: what is the role of racing organizations like the SCCA or Grid Life or Spec MX-5 or even NASCAR, IMSA? What's the role of these organizations in using esports to their advantage and to foster driver talent for the future?
Sure. So I think that it's multifaceted. One thing we want to do, obviously, is gain the interest of whatever user base that we're working with. Really engage the users and get them interested in motorsports in general. Obviously, we want to drive people into, the real-life motorsports avenue. And so that's really a good opportunity to basically say, hey, look, this is what we do in real life. You can come experience in a nice, safe, controlled environment where there's no risk whatsoever. You can have a ton of fun. The competition's there. It's basically 95% of what you're going to get in real life anyway. And then when you are ready to, be at whatever step in life that you're in, and you're now able to do this, you can come join us. And we have a great sanctioning body. We can work with you. We run all these venues. It's great people. It's just one of these things, like, you're trying to foster this kind of really inclusive environment. So it's another avenue to do that.
All right, well, very well said. Mark Liller, thanks for joining us again, one of the assistant directors of road racing at the DC Region SCCA. Mark, you're welcome to hang around in the booth with us if you want. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us for just a little while and giving us your perspective on the esports environment within iRacing.
Really appreciate it. Looking forward to watching the race.
All right, have a good night, Mark.
You too.
All right, so that, again, was Mark Liller. And, wow, Finian, this has been an interesting qualifying session so far, but I think some things never changed. Paul Darling right up at the top of the grid where he has belonged the past couple of weeks.
And again, he has to make up for a little bit of the ground he lost. It's about it's 7 points. He has 7 points of a gap between him and Elias Roman, who's been doing very well in the last few weeks, or in the last 2 weeks in particular. Dennis Barrett as well has also been doing pretty well. So if Darling's not careful, he can easily lose that points lead. He needs to make sure he's able to defend it, and what better way than to be on pole.
And he's got Dennis Barrett behind him. And Dennis Barrett is one of those guys they've seen steadily improving in this Mazda MX-5 Cup car. Remember, he came from the big bore category from last season when that was the top class, decided to step down, or step over laterally to the, what is now the GMX-5 class in that number 20 car. And every week his results have been getting better and better and better, sitting second right now in qualifying.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, as I was just looking through the grid for the MX-5, it looks like we don't have Elias Roman here.
Yeah, he's not here tonight. I think he had work conflict. So
that's very unfortunate for him. So it looks like it's going to come down to between Paul Darling and Dennis Barrett right now. Both those guys fighting for the top spot. Dennis Barrett, again, is very close in third. He's 42. He's 8 points behind Paul Darling. How
about Rich DeMarco in the 461? He's been doing double duty each week. He's running in the Grid Life series on Tuesday nights that are on SimTV. And last night, how about a finish in the Grid Life series, Finian? Coming to the checkers at Road America, we were 3 wide and had 2 cars deep coming back to the checkers out of turn 14 at Road America, and a winning gap. I think it was like, what, 200ths of a second or something like that?
200 of a second.
Very, very fantastic race. Again, that replay you can find on SimTV. What a phenomenal group of guys that is. In a full field, 50 cars once again. We look like we have just over 30 tonight, and it looks like we have about 9 Kias, 11 Mustangs, and 13 GMX-5s.
Yeah, a lot of Mustangs, which I find kind of odd, because they're around where the Kias are. This is, I think, the first week that they've overtaken them in numbers, so a nice show out for that class in particular.
All right, Dominic. Well, we've been to VIR before. We've seen how well it races, but tonight, a different class structure than last season. The Kia's front-wheel drive, a lot narrower racetrack this time around. What do these drivers have to adjust on such a narrow racetrack versus somewhere wider like Watkins Glen or Road Atlanta?
So, Carl, I think here you're going to have a situation where patience is going to become even more of a virtue than it would on a wider track. And that's because that you want to find where you can make the cleanest move and make sure that everyone is getting through each part of the track as best they can. And if you can make sure that you're giving your fellow competitor enough space, everyone's going to be able to continue on. And also, especially when we get to the front straight here, it starts to narrow really quickly. So you cross the stripe, go into turn 1, and the track immediately starts to narrow up again. And I think that catches a lot of drivers out and surprises them, especially if it's the first time here. So be aware of where the track widens and where it narrows.
All right, well, while qualifying is concluding, we're going to go show you the track map of VIR. We'll be right back. Stay with us. That is the Virginia International Raceway, Finney, and we mentioned that data says 17 turns. That's the correct number. ATVO likes to return 20 for some reason, but 3.244 miles, 17 corners by my count and by your count, as well as Wikipedia's count. So, but again, this track, very technical, but it's a great racetrack. We've seen some phenomenal racing here. We've done it a lot the past couple weeks, and one more time to round out, really, VIR for probably quite a while on SimTV. So we'll wish it goodbye for a little bit. But qualifying is concluding here, and Paul Darling still sitting on pole. Dennis Barrett in second place. Rich DeMarco third. Sam Scott fourth. Robbie Wilson in fifth. And the number 171. How about that qualifying effort for the 171 car?
Yeah, indeed. We'll see if he can improve on it. These guys still got to make it back to the checkered flag. Any drivers who started their lap, they can finish it. So we'll see if Wilson can improve. Although I expect most of the drivers to be more or less where they started. Oh, I didn't even realize you had your echo here.
Yeah, I should turn that off. All right. Yeah, I moved it. I wanted to play some music this afternoon.
Oh. I just saw a light appear. I was like, oh.
Alexa, stop listening. All right. Well, all right. Robbie Wilson is still making his way around. I think he's one of the only cars on track that's still going to get another lap. Tyler Stewart's going to give up on that. Hey, Calvin Wong's back. We haven't seen this guy in a couple weeks.
Yeah. And currently, he's going to be starting in 12th. So he's going to be second to last in class. But it's still nice to see him back here after, after we've missed him for quite a while.
Now, Roger Gregory in the 33 car has not made a qualifying effort. We have yet to see if he'll make it onto the grid. But Finian, class-wise tonight, again, 9 Kias, 10 Mustangs, and 13 MX-5s. Very even class split, as even as it's been for a little while.
Yeah, indeed. And so it'll be interesting to have pretty much even grids for all 3 classes here tonight. And seeing how they interact with each other. Again, this is a pretty long track. And also a lot of straightaways too, so I don't think we'll see as much chaos as far as passing. Lap traffic was last week at Summit Point, because that track typically tends to get a little hectic, just due to its shorter nature.
And as Calvin Wong works his way through roller coaster into turns 15, 16, and 17, we'll take another look at the conditions, Finian. This is an interesting one. Wow, 76 degrees in the air, 118 on the track. It's cooling down a little bit, but that's hot.
Yeah, it's really hot. Again, for reference, the Indy 500 in last year was 120 degrees track time. That was boiling hot. So that was like probably one of the hottest track times I've ever seen. It's probably gotten hotter in some places, but it's never usually that hot. That's really hot.
Aggregate, the color of the pavement, I mean, all those things are really going to affect how hot it gets. But Dominic, hot tracks are interesting, and some drivers prefer a hot track because it's a little bit more slippery, you get a little bit more off throttle time, but what are the challenges that relate to having a slick track based on temperature?
So Carl, hot tracks can easily get greasy, so while you may be able to rubber in and get your tires up to temperature quicker than if the track's cold, it does become slick in areas where you may not expect it. And for that, you have to adjust your line to make sure that a spot where there may be a bit of a slick spot, you do your best to avoid it. And the curbs get really slippery as well when it gets hot, so you want to do your best to be able to stay off them as best you can. So the track's going to be really different when it's getting hot because the grease and everything from the track's going to come up once the sun comes out and it's baking the track, so to speak.
And Dominic mentions the curbs, Finian. Very much like rain racing. Stay off the curbs when it's slippery. Good thing is VIR doesn't have a lot of curbing around here. It's minimal. They're bare concrete for the most part.
Instead of curbing, they have grass.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. We talked about runoff room, Finian. You could call it runoff. It's run away, really. It's 100,000 yards of grass off each corner exit.
The only real runoff room you have is when the track goes through an alternate layout. It's pretty much like,
here's the
car. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Also, this is the new safety car that iRacing has added for the Season 2 2019 build, and it is gorgeous.
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll ride on board DJ's car, and that is... It doesn't even have a wing. They took the wing off. That is so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's also cool. It's a safety car instead of pace car.
I really, really like this. It's the little things, Finian.
Yeah.
Oh, also, so while we're sitting here on the grid waiting to do our pace lap, what about the Season 2 build here, Finian? Made a couple changes in relation to the simulator, but one of my favorites is the integration of stalling. Now, no standing start here tonight, but for the longest time, iRacing had a permanent anti-stall, meaning that if you spun out, if you dropped the clutch too quick, if you didn't give enough gas, it would keep you from stalling. They finally implemented a new clutch stalling or engine stalling model, and it revamped the clutch so that the engine at low RPM will lug along properly, based on the number of cylinders and the cylinder compression ratio. So what that means is that every car is a little bit different with how it gets rolling, but none of these cars in here tonight have anti-stall built into them because they're obviously, you know, they're the only high-end open-wheel cars, and the Porsche 911 GT3 has it. But if these guys spin out and they have that setting turned all the way to hardcore mode, which I assume is probably what most of these guys will choose to do, keep that clutch in when you spin 2 feet in.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, as far as people stalling, again, we shouldn't see any drivers stall. Maybe on the grid here. Actually, let's watch. Does anyone stall? Because that's always been the funniest thing. I've been doing a lot of cup practice sessions, and when people are rolling off the grid, they forget that they have to put the clutch in. The car just dies. But yeah, it looks like everyone's gotten rolling away.
A little bit of a puff of smoke back there in the Mazda grid.
I don't really expect these guys to stall because a lot of real world drivers are in this league. So
yeah, it's a new thing. I mean, I think it's going to take some getting used to for the people that haven't been used to clutching properly. But again, it's not really going to be a factor unless you spin out and you don't push the clutch in. But I think a lot of these guys instinctively will do that already, just based on their past experience. But that safety car is so good looking. I'm so excited about that.
Ken O'Toole is enjoying the new pace car. He's trying to get up close. Oh, he's getting really.
Oh, he's inside it. Look at that. That is gorgeous looking.
It looks so weird because it
doesn't have the wing. I didn't know they took the wing off.
Yeah, it doesn't even have like the small. I mean, obviously they couldn't put it on, but it doesn't even have like the typical like the small little Porsche like wing at the back.
I don't know what trim level it is, but it's basically just the 911 GT3 with the wing ripped off. But hey, it's good enough for me. It's better than a rough RT or roof, if you want to call it that, RT12 from 2012, or a 2006 era Ford Mustang based off the FR500S. So I'm happy with this. It looks beautiful. But again, HDR, another thing that got added into iRacing. We're running it right now. Not a huge difference, especially at this racetrack, but if you're in the cockpit, it's definitely noticeable. It looks very pretty.
Yeah, especially at night, too, and night lighting, really notice the difference. It makes the sim look so much better. When I was playing around with it the other day, it looks absolutely insane. And even without an HDR monitor, I can only imagine with an HDR-enabled monitor how amazing it will look.
And also, in addition, not applicable to this series directly, but excuse me, I'm trying to think and do 2 things at once here. What was I saying?
I don't know.
build updates. I had something to say.
Talk about the cup cars?
Nope. Oh, man.
I mean, what else? Oh, the popcorn?
Oh, new tire model. Oh, not applicable to these race cars, but the Skip Barber Formula 2000 car has the V7 tire model, and Dave Kemmer from iRacing, that's his pet project. He's been working on it for literally decades at this point. But every iteration of iRacing's tire model is getting more and more progressively realistic, trying to build it based on a scientific model where all you have to change is the tire carcass parameters, and then it's good to go. Instead of trying to do an empirical model, which is basically just kind of fudging the numbers to make it act right, they're doing a scientific model to make it so that it naturally does the right things. The V7 tire model only on the Skip Barber car, but Finney and I've driven it. It is spectacularly awesome and feels so much more like a real car. And also, the off-track performance, not so good in the grass. They've changed a lot of how the tire reacts. We'll probably see that in the next build or the build there on out, but not on these cars just yet, but very exciting things coming to iRacing.
Yeah, indeed. So looking forward to the stuff that's up and coming, and you just unplugged my mic. I mean, not my mic, my speakers.
I'm not perfect, Finian.
Alright, as it comes to the final corners, you're going to get ready to take the green flag here for the Kias.
Yeah, Ken O'Toole on pole again, and we've seen Ken and DJ do battle. They did it the other night as well, and Ken lost both times, looking for a little bit of redemption here tonight. Who's going to win it, though? 25 minutes around Virginia International Raceway. We've got about 9 Kia Optimas in this front group coming to the green flag. DJ Alessandrini alongside Ken O'Toole, waiting for the green. There it is, green flag in the air. 25 minutes at VIR, we're underway.
And here they race off into turn 1. You see Alessandrini on the outside looking for a position, as well as Pelota and Hurst behind.
Door to door into turn 1, but O'Toole's going to pull away. Meanwhile, the Mustang's already up to speed, flying to the start. There's Forrest Landy and Dave Alessi that are side by side down into turn number 1. They're going to get themselves sorted out. Look at the Michael Monaghan, the 05 charging into the corner. Made a great run down there. Kia's all sorted out for now. Let's head on back to the MX-5 category. I think they're taking the green right now. Here they come. Paul Darling on pole.
Yeah, Paul Darling on pole, leading the rest of these guys down to turn 1. This is going to be the most interesting start of the bunt here. These guys are here, and it's going to be a matter of who gets the biggest run.
Khalil Naturbov in the 19 car trying to make room on the inside lane behind that purple machine, but into turn 1, everyone in there so far so good. Up front, though, Finian, 2 guys battling for the lead. Can outseal DJ Alessandrini. We've seen this fight more than once.
Oh, definitely have. This is probably the 10th, 15th time maybe we've seen these guys battle in at some league in some capacity. And you can see Alessandrini was all over the back bumper of Halcyon the Snake.
So we said last night that we feel like we talked to Alessandrini pretty much every time, and I don't think that's going to change today. Right on the rear bumper of Halcyon down the straightaway. Some contact. I heard a little bit of a bump back here between the Kias.
Yeah, it looks like Herps is falling back a little bit of time. He might have gotten some damage.
Francois Brew in the 69, a little bit slow out of Oak Tree. But speaking of Oak Tree, the Mustangs are in and out of it, all strung out in a line. Very tidy there. Nicholas Palacio in the 35 has gone for a big loop. Let's take a quick look at how this happened. This is heading down into Oak Tree. And did he get some help, or did he spin down here all on his own? To the inside of the 11 of Mark Labens. And just spins out.
Yeah, had a little bit of contact, and that sent him loose off into the grass. And here is the MX-5s.
Dennis Barrett fighting off Sam Scott will take that second spot away. They're going to get in line now, but Paul Darling now 1.5 seconds up the road.
Yeah, you can see that Paul Darling already developing a lead here, so if these guys don't get sorted out quick enough, they could lose the leader. And speaking of the leader, here comes Alessandrini up to the inside of Halcyon.
Door to door through turn number 1, and you got to be patient on the throttle here with these front-wheel drive cars through turns 1 and 2, now to turn 3. DJ's on the outside now. Rich DeMarco has had an incident in MX-5. But Halcyon holds on to the lead, but DJ is charging, and he's looking to the inside down into turn 4.
Yeah, that wasn't really going to work. It was too late of a move. But we'll see now if Alessandrini can do it. I think he's waiting for Halcyon to make a mistake, and I think only then he to make the pass. Because again, he only has to pass one car. He's in second place. He's only got to pass Halcyon up ahead of him, and then he'll have the lead. So I think he's just going to play patient with this, because there's no point in really getting in front of him until the last lap.
Rich DeMarco had not a great start on Tala Sadiq in the number 3 car, has gone for a loop, position number 9 in Big Bore. Let's take a look at how this happened. And look, I think Forrest Landy was involved here as well.
Yeah, so you see Landy now, he's going to go around the outside of Sadiq, sorry.
Just 2 cars going for one spot. They're both going to go for a wild slide, but the 3 car looped it around. And did he catch one of the other cars? No, Fitzgerald somehow managed to get his way through there. But Sadiq not off to a fantastic start. Has some nose damage on that machine. Down the back straightaway now, DJ Alessandrini to the inside of Halcyon. Hard on the brakes, but Halcyon holds him off for now.
Yeah, Halcyon was able to keep him at bay. And you can see that these guys are broken away from the rest of the pack. Andrew Pelota isn't too far behind them, though, in third.
Pelota hanging out, waiting for those two to get together. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's waiting, banking on that happening. And if that does happen, it'll be an absolutely brilliant thing for him for his race.
There's Louis Alessi trying to chase down Francois Brew in the number 69 just up the road. Alessi bounces off the curb on corner exit, but for the lead again in the TCR category, Alessandrini up the outside this time, maybe trying to stick around here. Then he'll make a run into turn 3, but he's going to get past on the inside, the shorter way around, maybe try to cross up Halcyon to the inside. Here he comes.
But he's going to be on the outside heading into the next corner, though, so that might trip him up. And you see, but he's going to try to do a late crossover. Halcyon cuts him off.
Right now through turns 3 and 4, the TCR leaders are still very close together. Big Bore is Christopher Lapras by 1.3 seconds over Monaghan. Paul Darling is 3.2 seconds over Sam Scott. Sam Scott and Dennis Barrett trading spots for second.
Oh, Barrett isn't done yet.
Ooh, contact there. Barrett knocks the Sam Scott car out of the way. Will take that second spot back.
Oh, but they're still not done. Sam Scott going to try to fight Barrett for this position there, side by side.
And he'll have to give that spot away. Sam Scott will retake that position.
Oh, and a big spin.
That's Nutirbov who goes wide, and Sam Scott's also spun, and they make huge contact at the exit of the final corner, and both those cars very, very heavily damaged.
Yeah, so those 2 separate incidents there at the end.
Yeah, we saw what happened to Nutirbov. Let's watch what happened to Sam Scott, though. I think he might have just lost it on
went way too hard. Oh, looks like he saved it.
And looped it back around and just happened to have Nutirbov trying to get back up to speed and just drills the 98 car in the door. But again, on the back straightaway, there's battles all over the racetrack. But here comes Alessandrini, much better run this time alongside Halcyon. Will he try to outbrake him again? He does, but can't do it. So Halcyon can maintain that lead with that big hamster on the roof, just teasing that Kia behind him.
Yeah, indeed. He's doing a solid job of defending here, although with this, he's allowed Now he's allowed Andrew Pelota to start to reel in these guys, so it's now going to be soon a three-way battle for the lead.
Onto the front straightaway once again. This is the closest battle on the racetrack. Hausiel goes defensive, but Alessandrini's been trying to go the long way around. He's gone the short way around. How is he going to get that Ken Hausiel car out of the way?
I think he's going to have to make a pass to the inside. I just don't think a pass to the outside can work here with these cars with their front-wheel drive layout.
Ooh, big early braking there for Alessandrini, trying to cross up Ken Hausiel, but this corner's too long to make that move, I think.
Yeah, you can see him trying to do the undercut, but it's so hard to do in a front-wheel drive car. It just kind of goes straight. It's so hard to pull it to the inside with what he's asking for it to do.
Paul Darling's lead in GMX5 is now 7 seconds over Robbie Wilson, then it's 3/10 back to Dennis Barrett. But the three-way battle for the lead in TCR is too good to pull away from. Dominic, we've seen spectacular action here early. We've seen very good driving so far. Expectations for the rest of this race, and who's your prediction for the TCR winner of these front three?
So, you know, I'm going to be interesting. I'm going to say Andrew Pelota. I think he's got a good check because these guys have been going very aggressively. You can see Alessandrini get almost clips Hausiel up through the S's here, and that's a very dangerous spot to be side by side.
Dominic, any choices of who you got of these front three while they're dogfighting here?
So, Carl, I'm going to concur with Finian here. I think that Andrew Pelota is the one who's right now in the best position because, well, Hausiel and Alessandrini are battling it out. He's back there taking down notes as to what you can do later in the race to get by them. And what we've seen a lot of times, especially at VIR, is the victory being rewarded to the driver who was patient throughout, and that's possibly what we could see here with these top three.
Absolutely, and they're down the backstretch again, and Alessandrini's gotten this draft a bunch tonight, but he hasn't been able to make it stick. There's a big cloud of smoke. That's the 100 of Calvin Wong. He's slowing off the pace, but for the lead, Hausiel blocks again. Alessandrini not able to make that move down there, Finian. Surprised. I would have thought he would have tried to launch it a little bit deeper.
I think he's probably trying to save his tricks here for the end here. I think he might honestly have to get a little bit physical with Hausiel because Hausiel is not making it easy for him at all.
Up and over the curbs out of the final corner. I'm amazed that these guys have even stayed on the track this long. This front-wheel drive car is not a whole lot of fun. I mean, it's probably fun, but it's not easy to drive around here. This track is narrow, and if you slip wide, you're totally off the racetrack.
Yeah, and it's so hard to get back on the track again with the front-wheel drive layout because it tends to understeer a lot. But here comes Alessandrini to the outside yet again. I think this is him just trying to test the waters, maybe find some sort of weak spot. But they see Pelota
to the inside. He's going to make that dive, and we'll be able to cross over Hausiel, but Hausiel's going to have the preferred line in turn 3.
Alessandrini would have to cross over here, but just can't get to the inside. Hausiel doing a fantastic job of defending the lead.
No battles for the lead in the other classes just yet,
Pelota.
but Pelota takes a look to the inside of Alessandrini. Optimistic move there. We'll have to wait again to try that move.
I don't know if he tried to do that on purpose, and it looks like I think he clipped the grass and got loose and then just tried to make a passing opportunity out of it. He's got the set on it, but if you can see up ahead out of the nose, you can see some MX-5s up the road.
Yeah, that is going to be Khalil Natirbov. We saw him have contact with Sam Scott. Hausiel shoves his way to the inside.
Wow.
Huge pass through the S's. Phenomenal move. And here comes Alessandrini. The same move to the inside will get by that number 19 car. Holy cow.
That was very close. I'm amazed that they didn't make contact there. We have to take a replay there off the nose of Hausiel. That was
definitely have to
close.
take a look. Here it is. Wow. Oh, there was
did.
contact.
Okay.
It was not a whole lot of contact, but there definitely was contact here.
I'm actually surprised I didn't move the MX-5 at all because it doesn't take too much to send them. But
oh man,
wow.
There was actually a little bit of netcode there, I believe. Finian didn't see the contact, but my goodness, was that close. So Hausiel has used that to extend his lead now to 1 second. The battle is now for second in TCR. Let's take a quick look back to Big Bore. Forrest Landy in third, but Dave Fitzgerald behind him. And Fitzgerald was really struggling in practice with the hot track temps, Finian, and told me pre-race that he was not really looking forward to this one, but sitting in 4th place right now, good run for him. Now let's head on back to GMX5, battle for second. Dennis Barrett and Robbie Wilson in the 171.
Yeah, the lead battles for the leads in both the MX-5 and the Big Bore class. They've kind of spread out. The leaders are quite a bit of ways up the road, especially in MX-5 with Paul Darling with a 10-second lead.
Wow! Barrett slips wide at the exit of turn 3. To the inside comes Robbie Wilson. They're going to trade these positions probably if the 171 can cross over Barrett correctly, and out of the turn number 5 and 6 complex, they're going to head up to the S's, and now it becomes a drafting game.
Yeah, indeed. I think Wilson, it looks like he's got the pace. If he can just wait on it, he should be able to move himself up in a second without much effort.
Look at that pull from the 171. These ND Miatas really like to suck up on the straightaways, but you might have to wait here. We've seen side-by-side passes done in the S's, but it's certainly not something you want to do with a whole 15 minutes left.
Yeah, indeed. That's more something for the last lap or two. I don't want to really do it at this point in the race. We're just about halfway.
Battle in Big Bore, Landy and Fitzgerald getting closer together. The 0.3 of a second separating them. Christopher Lapras is now 2 seconds up the road from Michael Monaghan. So a pretty large gap there. But for the lead again, wow, look at this, through traffic again. I think Halcyon got held up, and Alessandrini's right back to his bumper, and now the leaders in TCR have to navigate their way through the MX-5 field. It's going to get crazy here.
Yeah, they're catching the meat of the field as well, so this is going to be interesting. These next few corners, they're going to at least pass one of these cars up ahead here.
Charles Boley in the 63 is the next one on the list, and here comes Halcyon. They're going to get by Boley pretty easily here on the straightaway, but Alessandrini, Pelota, and Herbst all within striking distance. That's the 25 car of Tyler Stewart. 3 of them are going to get by him, maybe 2. Wow, close quarters there with Pelota. Now they're all stacked up behind the 22 car, through their way through a roller coaster now.
Yeah, you can see a car twice their size, cars twice the size of the MX-5 trying to work their way through. Did a pretty fantastic job of it while keeping close to one another.
Ooh, that car is wide. That is going to be Roger Gregory in the 33, who didn't qualify and is running 5th right now, so great advancement forward for him, but now we're passing him on the front straightaway. Look at Pelota dogging in line behind Alessandrini. Alessandrini looks wide into turn 1.
He's going to look wide. I think it's going to be the same thing that we've seen time and time again. I don't think he's going to have enough of a run, and here comes Pelota now. He's going to be ready to pounce.
Brakes glowing on these front cars as they're racing extremely hard. 13 minutes to go. Alessandrini crosses over Halcyon. We've seen him try this a couple times unsuccessfully.
Yeah, this is the closest he's been to it. If he can try to pin Halcyon here, he just can't do it.
Crossover again here in turn 3. He's going to have a run.
He's going to have a run. He needs to send it here. No, he's going to back out of it.
Oh, throttles up mid-corner and almost gets to the rear bumper of Halcyon.
I can see him trying to search for the inside, setting up the next corner ahead of them, but it's just not able to do it. Halcyon's just too good at defense.
Through the S's now. Narrow racetrack here, Dominic. What do these lap cars have to do to keep themselves out of trouble?
So Kyle, as we've been talking about throughout the season, it's best to make yourself predictable when a faster car is coming behind you, and if you can make sure that you stay on the line, the car behind is going to have a much easier time getting around. And as we have a line of cars here, it's going to be even more important that these lap cars aren't going to have to just worry about one car, they're going to have to worry about a whole line. And if you can allow them all through, that's great. And sometimes the cars coming through are going to have to be patient to get around in a safe place.
Patience, definitely not really a thing right now. Alessandrini and Pelota were just absolutely weaving their way through. Pass for second place. Pelota to the inside after Alessandrini went wide out of Oak Tree behind some MX-5 traffic.
Yeah, we saw Pelota get into Alessandrini, and Alessandrini also went wide coming out of Oak Tree. I was talking about the momentum out of that corner. It's very important. Pelota's able to get a fantastic run, and here he is ahead of Alessandrini for second place. Now here comes Kyle Herbst trying to take third place.
Herbst has been sitting here waiting for an opportunity to get around these guys, and now he's sitting on it. Now we have Pelota in second. Do you think he's got the pace to get back up to Halcyon, Finian?
I think he might. We'll see what he can do here. If they can just catch the slipstream of Halcyon, which shouldn't be too hard to do. They might have a shot. Here comes Alessandrini to the outside of Pelota. We'll see what happens here.
Well, Halcyon's taken this and run away with a 1.6 second lead, but for second place now, Pelota deep on the brakes. Alessandrini wide on the entry. Kyle Herbst wanted to put the nose in there. Now Alessandrini comes back to the inside in turn 2, looking on the outside to turn 3. If he can hold this line, he'll be good for turn 4.
Oh, and Pelota's going to give up the spot here.
Yeah, he's going to, Alessandrini's going to steal this back and clear him, so now that puts the 191 back into second.
Yet. Not done yet. Ooh, a little bit of contact between those guys. A little bit of a door.
Now Herbst is coming in here for third. He's going to have to back out before they get... Ooh, that might be a cut course for the 89. Yes, it looks like it is. Slow down for Kyle Herbst, just a slight one, though. Halcyon has run away. 2.2 seconds is the gap. 10 minutes left in this race. How about Big Bore? Christopher Lapper still out in front of Michael Monaghan by 1.5 seconds.
Yeah,
that's the gap there.
Yeah, Monaghan's been closing in now. Last time we were looking at them, they were at 2 seconds. Now it's 1.5. So Monaghan closing in on Lappers, and he's still got a good amount of time to just take under 10 minutes to go.
Sam Scott trying to rebound from that damage that he got earlier with Cleveland Tierboff, battling for 7th. Actually, make that 6th with Tyler Stewart. There comes the number 92 car of Don Manning in the TCR car to lap them. Everything's kind of calmed down for a moment, but it's not going to be for too long. Travis Trussell in the 140 TCR car has had an incident, and he is off track now.
And how about Paul Darling in the MX-5?
Whoa, contact, 98 spins with, I think that was Don Manning that got into him there, Finian. And this is that multi-class interaction, the patience thing here, Finian. Let's see how this happens. I think the 92 just got in there really hot. Let's get one more look at that. I cut to it right at the right time. Here's 92. I think he just tries to send it in here. Was not alongside. Goes into the braking zone, and that's on the 92, but mistakes happen in multi-class racing.
Yeah, indeed, and you see the 98 of Scott there, and he gets back going underway. Yeah, I was just saying, Paul Darling's got a massive lead. He's leading by 21 seconds over the next car in class.
21 seconds over these guys right here. Dennis Barrett, Robbie Wilson. They're battling for second. Then they're side by side. There is... that is Louis Alessi in the 43 going on by, but the 171, it's got the preferred line down into turn 1. We'll see if he can make it stick this time.
Here they come under braking, and Wilson's been doing a fantastic job this race, and he moves up into second place.
And they'll push Dennis Barrett back to third, but we know Barrett is willing to fight for it. Hausil ran a quicker lap than DJ Alessandrini by 4/10. Oh, contact!
And Wilson's going sliding. Can he save it? No, he's going to get looped around.
Oh, rear contact from Dennis Barrett after he got by there, so I think there'll be a little bit of animosity between those two. The 171 pulls back onto the racetrack. There is Don Manning in the 92 coming up behind him. Let's take a look at this contact here, Finney. What do you see? Well, probably not much from that angle. What do you see?
Ooh.
I think there was some netcode there, but
some netcode, but it looks like Barrett was not ready to brake where Wilson was, so just unfortunate timing from that.
There's David Alessi and Dave Fitzgerald battling for fourth now. 34 car in fourth, the 91 of Fitzgerald in fifth. Fitzgerald down to the inside. We've seen these brake rotors get really hot down into turn 1.
Oh, Fitzgerald very late on the brakes, and you see him go wide.
He's wide. He's going to be out in the grass. And that's the risk you take getting in there. He's going to lose another spot to Daniel Richardson in the 15. So that's what happens when you just try to outbrake a guy just by a little bit, and it ends up being just a foot too far. It'll send you out into the grass here. And Dominic, VIR is by nature a pretty unforgiving course. So do you have to drive this place any differently than a track with paved runoff, or is it all the kind of same? You just want to keep it on the black stuff at every track you go to?
So Kyle, here without the runoff and with the lower curbs, you can easily get yourself 2 wheels or even 4 wheels off in the grass, and that grass is a lot more slippery than meets the eye. So in a lot of situations, you know, you have a case where the grass really turns into an ice rink at some points, and you have to be careful not to magnify a situation by letting yourself get too far off the road. So try to keep it straight as best you can, and make sure that you're doing your best to collect the car if you start to lose the back or lose the front.
Absolutely, and we saw the 171 of Robbie Wilson get turned by the 20 of Barrett last lap, but he's already about to get his way back into third if he can just get by the 78 of Michael Shea in that Burger King paint scheme. And it looks like the 171's going to have a fantastic run down the front straightaway and getting himself back into podium position here.
Indeed, here comes Wilson now looking to the outside, and he's again trying to make up the spots that he lost to the outside of Michael Shea, who's defending third place at the moment in that Burger King car.
And Wilson has to wait on it a little bit more. Anyway, back up in TCR, Ken House, a big shadow has come over VIR here, Phineas. Let's take a look at our conditions. 112, the track temp has fallen about almost 10 degrees from the start of the session, but that gap for the lead in TCR beginning to close. 1.1 seconds between Hausil and Alessandrini. We're not done yet.
Yeah, indeed. And looking at their last lap times, they ran Alessandrini ran 1/1000th of a second slower than Hausil. So I think overall it seems like he's closing in.
Ooh, there's going to be a big slowdown there, and that is going to be the 461 of Rich DeMarco, and that's going to hold up DJ a little bit here. No, actually not quite as bad, so he's going to probably gain. Yeah, he did gain about 0.3 of a second through that situation.
Yeah, so it looks like Alessandrini is starting to close in again on Hausil, and once he gets there, I think he's going to have to go straight for the pass.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left in this race. It's going to be about 3 laps. 3 laps to go just about. And Hausil is at 0.8 of a second lead over DJ Alessandrini in TCR. Lapras in the 04 has a 1.9 second lead over Michael Monaghan. That gap has stretched just a little bit. How about the GMX5? Paul Darling out in front by 19.3 seconds.
Yeah, no one's going to catch him at this rate. I think he's pretty much got this unless a mistake were to happen.
Ooh. 22 car of Thomas Lee. He's got a bunch of cars around him. That's the 05 of actually these are the Mustang leaders. That's Lapras right there on the left-hand side of your screen. Michael Monaghan at the top of the screen right now. Yeah. And they're still fighting, but amongst lap traffic here.
Yeah, and actually Monaghan lost a lot of time last lap. Lost about 0.4 of a second to Christopher Lapras, so he was closer, almost been about a second behind. And I think now the gap back at a second and a half. I just don't think he's going to be able to close in time.
Well, I think one guy that is going to have enough time to close in is Alessandrini. Make it 0.6 of a second now. He gained a bunch.
Yeah.
Make that, wow, that was 1.2 seconds he gained last lap alone on Ken Halseal.
He's well within the drafting range, especially now as they come out of Oak Tree onto the back straightaway. You're going to see visually here how Alessandrini just reel him in.
0.4 of a second out of Oak Tree. What is it down to by the time we get to Roller Coaster? 4.43. Make it a little bit less. 4.416. 0.283 into the braking zone here, Finian. Big gain for DJ.
Yeah, and very deep on the brakes for him as well. So he's not taking anything lightly here. He's trying to gain as much time as he can on Halseal, and he's pretty much there at this point.
3.5 minutes to go. Should be 2 laps to go at the line if this all continues at the pace that we're traveling at right now. Andrew Pelota a little bit out of striking distance if these two don't get together. But now DJ and Ken are going to settle amongst themselves. We've seen them do this in every race that we've seen them competing together, and they're not done yet.
Yeah, indeed. They're definitely not done yet. We've seen these guys be aggressive time and time again, and it's worked out more or less every single time. But Alessandrini looks especially racy tonight, so we'll see what he can do. And Halseal looks like he's not going to give up a spot at all.
Inches, if that, through turn 1 and 2, down to turn 3 now. DJ looks to the inside, can't quite get alongside here.
Yeah, I almost think that Alessandrini is going to have to be a little physical here. I think Halseal is just too good at being defensive here, and again, there's not enough space on the track. Again, like we said, it's a narrow track, and especially in quite a few sections, so you might have to get a little physical here in a lap or two.
He hasn't yet. He hasn't laid a single fender on that 23, at least in the last couple of laps. He got mighty close there a moment ago, but no contact yet, and DJ last night won that race at Road America without any contact there either. So these guys are extremely respectful with each other, but now through the S's, and contact is inevitable here, but through the S's, just inches separating these cars.
You can see a little out of Alessandrini, just a little bit loose out of the S's.
Into Oak Tree for the second to last time. Ken Halseal leads. Alessandrini wants it. Who's going to get the best launch out of here? Now it's down to the draft, and which line does Halseal take to defend from Alessandrini?
Yeah, it's kind of pick and choose here. I think Halseal's going to take the left side of the track, and as I say that, he moves on to the right, so he's going to open it up.
You get one move.
Yeah.
He's made it.
He's made it, and now here comes Alessandrini with the run.
To the inside, here comes DJ Alessandrini. Halseal moves over on him, forcing
he's
him
gonna pinch him
further. And now we got Mustang lap traffic. Halseal clears DJ as they dive into the corner. That's the 11 car of Mark Labens, and they're going to get straight on through, both of them in one go.
Halseal's been extremely aggressive in traffic, and it's really helped him out to maintain that lead. He's been able to stretch out some gaps, but they're going to come through one final lap car, and they're going to come to collect a white flag here. Final lap of the race. 1
lap to go, drafting off the Mustang. And that is, I believe, the 3 of Tala Sadiq. Through and through, white flag in the air. 1 lap to go, 1 minute and 10 seconds left here at Virginia International Raceway. Halseal leads Alessandrini by 0.2 of a second. Will they use the bumpers here?
I think Alessandrini, I think he wants to. I think he wants to be careful with it. I'm sure he doesn't want to completely take Halseal out. I think he just wants to move him a little bit so he can get fender in.
Well, the bump and run isn't super effective in these cars because whoever you're bumping can just put the throttle flat to the floor and just drive away. So you got to be careful with it. There's a contact, big push there by Alessandrini. Not going to be enough to dislodge the grip for Ken Halseal.
And you basically saw exactly what Kyle was talking about there. That Halseal was just able to slam the throttle down and keep the car going.
Through the S's now for one final time. Alessandrini's got a big run here, but not anywhere to go. Will they try to go side by side through here? We've seen him do it before.
Here? Oh, he's so close.
Maybe just set yourself up for the back straightaway. Alessandrini right on the heels of Ken Halseal.
I think we're going to see something in Oak Tree here. That's definitely a great place to try to move someone.
One final time through Oak Tree. Alessandrini right on the rear bumper of Ken Halseal. All about that final move. There's a Mustang in the way. Close quarters out of the Oak Tree corner, and that is the 15 car of Daniel Richardson. I don't think they're going to catch.
Oh,
they might.
They might in the last few corners, so it's all going to be about who's going to be able to clear the traffic. But here they come side by side. Alessandrini with a big run here.
Oh, you can bet he's not going to back out of this one early. Now they're going down to Roller Coaster. Who's going to break later into Roller Coaster? It looks like Halseal does. A little bit of side-by-side contact.
Halseal pinches him.
Contact,
Alessandrini
big
back
bump
in
there. Big bump for Alessandrini into the rear bumper of Halseal, but Halseal is not phased. They're still side-by-side through the last couple corners.
Oh, here they go. Who's going to make a more aggressive move? They door each other again through the final few corners.
DJ runs wide.
And I think Halcyon's got him here.
We're not done yet. Alessandrini runs way wide out of the corner. Coming back to the checkers. Who is it going to be? Side by side for a moment, but it's going to be Ken Alceel to the checkered flag in TCR. Fantastic stuff by 0.2 of a second. 1/10 of a second, correction.
Yeah, solid jobs. Great aggressive racing from both those drivers. Let's go through the rest of the field. Christopher Lappers, he's on the front part of the course.
Yeah, he's got still about a half a lap to go. Michael Monaghan, 4.3 seconds back. Everyone else in TCR coming across the line here, but Big Boar is pretty separated out. Lapras has led from the start of this race, and this is how it's been lately. He hasn't had a whole lot of competition here, and he's been showing it. He's been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, also in the MX5 category, looks like pulled on, he lost quite a bit of time there. I'm not sure if
nope, that's your wrong number there. 24 seconds is his lead now over Dennis Barrett.
Oh, yes.
But Lapras working his way through Oak Tree one final time. Man, I got to take a deep breath after the Kias, man. They always put on a great show. Lapras all by himself. How about Forrest Landy, though, number 4 car? Started in 5th up to 3rd. A good climb forward. A little bit of front-end damage from an incident earlier in the night. But David Alessi in the 34, that Blue Angels livery. Also doing well. Started in... Will finish exactly where he started, as long as he finishes here. Dave Fitzgerald. Got to hand it to Dave. I mean, he didn't walk in here with a whole lot of confidence, but running 5th right now after starting 7th. As long as he concludes this lap, top 5 for the 91.
Indeed, he'll get a solid top 5, although it probably could have been a little bit more, made a little small error. And you can see actually the track has cooled down by over 10 degrees, so interesting to note there.
Yeah, Dave's concern was that the track was really hot, 120 coming into the session. It's now down 14 degrees from where it started. And Dominic, I don't think you can understate the effect of track temperature on the tires. You mentioned how greasy it gets, but a 15-degree temperature swing is pretty big, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you're going to notice in the seat of the car that the grip is going to be better in some places and less good in others. And as the race goes on, you're going to have to mentally clock where it's better and where you can really gain your advantages, because if you try to make a move where it's a little bit more slick, you're going to disadvantage yourself and possibly end up making contact even if you end up slipping into the car alongside. So it's really a big game of chess, and whose mind prevails and takes those notes best is the one who's top.
All right, so that is the checkered flag flying for the majority of the grid here, Finney. I think we just have to wait on a couple more Mazda. Actually, that is everybody. So the winners in each class, and again, TCR, Big Bore, and GMX5. Ken Alceel wins it in TCR. Christopher Lapras in Big Bore, and Paul Darling snuck across the line, the leader, about 25 seconds in front of Dennis Barrett in that 155 car. So phenomenal racing all around, Finian. We're used to seeing that here, but what a race.
Yeah, indeed, especially for the overall lead between Alceel and Alcindrini. Even Pelota and Herbstu put up a solid fight there in the middle part of the race. But yeah, towards the end, Alcindrini and Alceel, fantastic show from both those guys.
Here's a look at your race results. Again, Alceel winning by 1/10 of a second over DJ Alessandrini. Andrew Pelota back in 3rd, Herbst 4th. Those guys had a fantastic race, but just dropped off after that lap traffic kind of mingled with them a little bit. Forrest Landy, again, finishing 3rd in Big Bore behind Michael Monaghan, and Fitzgerald, again, a solid top 5 for him. Richardson in 6th, Tala Sadiq in 7th after recovering from a little bit of contact. Darling, again, winning GMX5. Barrett, Wilson, Shea, Gregory, your top 5. How about Roger Gregory, by the way, Finian? He started in 13th, which is dead last for GMX5, and finished 5th. A great climb forward for that 33 car.
Yeah, indeed, fantastic climb forward for him.
That's your results here. We'll be back in just a moment with interviews. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Most, driving is just a mundane task between point A and point B. Nothing more. It's the frustration of traffic at 8 a.m. The feeling of sickness on a long ride. The car? Just a tool. It's supposed to be practical, reliable, and fast. But the speed is really the reason cars exist. Born out of a necessity to make that A to B trip just a little bit faster. Some have a deeper connection with cars, found somewhere in the bond of man and machine, a desire to be part of something bigger than yourself. It's the extension of mind and body to something more exciting than just another appliance. And these people never cared about practicality or reliability. To them, the only thing that matters is speed. We're born with a competitive nature, part of a biological necessity that has not yet worn off with time. People have raced for thousands of years, and that competition has transcended history and found its way to the industrial age. Railroads raced to build across the country, replacing the horses whose strength is still used as a benchmark for power today. And as personal vehicles became popular, the railroads died off. What once was the quickest way across the country became snail's pace in comparison. The interstate highway system expanded and cars populated every driveway. And the competition between types of transport quickly transitioned into the race to have the fastest car. Bragging rights. Manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, and BMW emerged in auto racing, each trying to one-up the other. Building engines became an arms race. Who could build the fastest dinosaur-powered lens? So while the passion for cars has died for most, there are still people that are fascinated by racing. The sights, the sounds, the smell of burning rubber and spent race fuel lingering in the air, this is what attracts us to the sport of auto racing. We are empowered by drivers that climb in impossibly fast cars and put everything on the line for the sake of competition. Drivers who know that one slip-up can lead to disaster. And for the longest time, wishing to be a race car driver was just a childhood dream. All we could ever be was a spectator. Opportunities? Limited and expensive. Reserved only for the who's who of the racing world. Until now.
Welcome back live to SimTV, here with second place finisher in TCR, DJ Alessandrini. And DJ, you don't typically have second next to your name here on SimTV, but tonight an incredible battle between you and Ken Houseel. You guys, again, always dueling with each other, always fair racing. Walk us through those last couple laps, because it was phenomenal between you two.
Ken deserved this win tonight. He had more pace. I was trying to hang out behind him and save the tires. That's what I was doing in the beginning. And I was definitely doing a better job of that than him. But then when Andrew started fighting me and some traffic got in the way and I had to catch Ken from 2.5 seconds back, I had to use up the tires a little bit. And by the time I got to Ken, I didn't have quite enough tire to make up for our pace differential. So I tried to get Ken on strategy. It didn't pan out. So Ken he got me on pace tonight.
What was the track temp like out there? I mean, obviously we saw at the beginning of the session it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It ended at 106 Fahrenheit. Did that change how you had to drive the racetrack, or is that something you just get used to automatically?
Yeah, you had to move your brake markers back about a half a marker, or else you'd be melting off the front tires and then you'd lose pace. I think that's what was happening with Kyle Herbst and Andrew Pilata. They were right with us for a majority of the race, but they were, driving the car way harder to be there. So when it came time to the end of the race, you could see they were just falling back. The front tires were done. They had it. At the end of the race, I think I had more pace than Ken, but some traffic got in the way, and the advantageous spot is in front, obviously. So Ken got it. His quality time was sick though. That's why I knew I had to do a change up on my strategy. I couldn't just get in front of Ken and hold it because he was faster tonight.
All right, DJ. Well, second place for tonight. Well-earned finish once again. Thanks for talking to us, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a good night, DJ. Next, we're going to talk to the man of the hour. It's going to be Ken Houseel, driving the number 23 car. And Sweeney grabs him. There he is. Hey, Ken, tonight was a fantastic race. You had to work for that one for sure. DJ Alessandrini all over you, Pelota, and more. Walk us through that last lap and how you had to defend to keep DJ behind you.
Man, that was intense. Like you said, the last lap, I knew we were catching that Miata towards the end, and it was just I need to be real careful and send it through here. But it was a little confusing, and DJ and I banged doors a bunch of times, and thankfully no incident points, but I was pretty close to DQing again.
Well earned and well fought. I asked DJ the same question, but I'm curious as to what your perspective was on the track temperature tonight. About 120 degrees Fahrenheit at the start of the race, 106 at the end. How did that change your attack, and how did that change how you defended it all? Were you worried about the track being a little bit slick?
I was towards the beginning, so I guess the first half of the race I was really taking it pretty easy. And the first time I got a little gap thanks to traffic, I tried to push a bit and didn't really make any time, so just backed off again. And then towards the end, I had that 2.5 second gap, whatever it was, and just went full send and really pushed hard, but made a big sloppy mistake in the S's. The Kia surprised me with how much power it had. I went up to sixth gear, and the grip was coming up, so the times are dropping, and the grip was there, and I wasn't expecting it, and just about spun off the track and hit the wall.
Well, Ken Alciol comes home with a victory here at Virginia International Raceway. Ken, thanks for talking to us. Congrats on the victory, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, Ken, have a great night. We're going to move on now down to Big Bore, and it's Christopher Lapras again, driving the number 04 and leading from... Oh, that's Mike Monaghan. Oh, I forgot we're doing it reverse. Thanks for correcting me, Finney. We're talking to Mike Monaghan now, who was driving the car number was Monaghan in 05 tonight. Michael, spectacular race, but just couldn't quite get up to Christopher. Walk us through that race and the chaos that surrounded all the multi-class interaction.
Yeah, I was hanging pace with him. I could get within about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, and stay there. And yeah, we finally caught the Miatas, and I just couldn't make the traffic work for me. And I ended up behind the guy. I don't know, got 3 or 4 seconds behind him. And there was only maybe 3 or 4 laps to go.
What are the Mustangs like around here? I mean, obviously they're front engine rear wheel drive, but they also weigh about 3,600 pounds. Kind of a beast around VIR, or is it a pretty good fit for the track?
I like it on the track, but yeah, the Mustang, it's definitely a slow in, fast out. You got to get it slowed down so you can turn it in and then get off the corner without late. Right. Especially with the temperature of the track today.
Yeah.
The track temp was really out there.
120. We were talking about it with DJ and Ken, how hot the track was out there. But Michael Monaghan coming home second place in Big Bore. Thanks for talking to us, Mike. We'll see you later.
Appreciate it.
All right, now we're going to talk to Christopher Lapras driving the number 04 car tonight. Chris, first of all, again, congrats on another solid victory. You've been phenomenal lately, but walk us through VIR, the hot track, and how you were able to run away from second place Mike Monaghan.
Yeah, no, the qualifying was, I think, like within a tenth, within noise, and the conditions just deteriorated, in my opinion, as the race went on. But Mike and I seem to have the same exact pace, and just I got a little more lucky with traffic, I feel like, and was able to kind of make some distance on him.
All right, Christopher. Well, fantastic victory, and it was kind of quiet around you for the most part tonight. I mean, you had to be pretty satisfied with how that all went. I mean, I think what was your victory margin? It was a couple seconds, I believe. So, was there any concern that about the lap traffic or anything, how the multi-class interaction was working, or just kind of a smooth sailing for you tonight?
No, I got real nervous every time I got within 4 seconds of a Miata, and I seemed to catch it in the S section with nothing to do but just follow him through.
All right, well, Christopher Lapras, winner in Big Bore. Thanks for talking to us. We'll see you later.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too. All right, now we're going to head on down to GMX5, and I believe the next guy we're talking to is going to be Dennis Barrett, driving the number 20 tonight. Dennis, transition from the Mustang to the MX5 this season has been good to you so far. Your best finish of the season, second place. Walk us through your night and battling with the drivers around you.
Yeah, I didn't have the qualifying pace I'd like to have, knocking some rust off. I haven't been on all week. And Paul was in front. I wanted to stay close to him, but Rich DeMarco ended up coming up over the S's, making a pass, and then losing it and making a huge gap between our pack and Paul, and just couldn't catch back up.
There was a slight incident between you and Robbie Wilson in the 171. I believe it was in turn number 3. What happened there between you guys?
Yeah, I kind of feel bad about it. He was aggressive, made the pass, and then I think he just overslowed a little bit for the corner, and I didn't anticipate it and just caught the back end of him a little bit, and it looked like I pushed him out of the way, but it really didn't feel like I did in the car.
All right, well, either way, second place finish for Dennis Barrett. Thanks for talking to us, buddy. Congratulations. Solid podium finish for you.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. I think the last one we got tonight is going to be Paul Darling in the 155 car. Paul, I'd be lying if I didn't say it looked easy out there for you in that 155. Your winning margin was, I think, 25 seconds. How are you so fast around here?
I think I had too much practice. This is the 4th race in 2 weeks. I think you guys were spectating or commentating for all of those. The first 3 sucked. This one it's a little bit more simple.
I mean, I'd say so. I mean, the Kias around here, though, I think it was the first one that was multi-class. So how was that affecting your driving line and your positions? And was that really a big deal to you, or was it pretty easy with those Kias around you?
I got extremely lucky because I think it was like 1st through 5th in a big gaggle of the Kias. And I was able to let every single one of them by on the back straightaway. So I got extremely lucky.
Obviously, Finian, I don't know, is Darling still leading the point standings? I'm not exactly sure. So you're still leading the point standings. So coming in and winning this race, obviously going to be quite good for you. Of the next couple tracks we're going to, which one is the one that's circled on your list as your favorite?
Oh, I have no idea. I just show up and race.
Finny, where are we going next week, by the way?
We're going to Charlotte.
Wait, Charlotte Roval? Oh, goodness. All right, well,
that's a new one for me.
Yeah, well, so speaking of that, I mean, obviously you got a points lead heading into something as unpredictable as the Charlotte Roval. How do you attack a place like that? Is it conservative, or are you just going for wins at this point?
I'm definitely trying to go for wins. New track, that'll be a very unique experience, especially with multi-class there.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos. All right, Paul. Thanks for talking to us. Congrats on another win. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome. And I don't know if I think that's everybody, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, that is our means we're done with interviews. But again, you just mentioned Charlotte Roval next week, Finian. That is one heck of a racetrack. I think there's also 17 corners there, but they're very different. High banks, crazy chicane. Actually, I don't even know what layout we're using. We could be using one of the newer layouts now because they just added more layouts. Yeah. So we might not have that evil back straight chicane. But
if we do, we're going to lose a lot of cars.
All right. But Dominic, fantastic race we saw again tonight. This is one of the cleanest races I think we've seen. And what do you think led to that? I mean, it's hot track and multi-class. You would have thought it'd be a little bit messier.
Yeah, Kyle, I think that drivers tonight were really minding their P's and Q's, and people had that mentality that, you know, if I do something, if I'm too aggressive early on, then it's going to impact my race in a negative way. So try to balance what we call controlled aggression, making sure that you're taking advantage of opportunities to get by, but at the same time, you're not forcing the issue. And I think all the drivers executed that mentality really well today, and that's why we were able to have close quarters racing, but I'll just call them love taps, and we were able to have everyone get through fine.
All right, Dominic, thanks a lot. Again, Kyle Heyer, Finian D'Acuna, and Dominic Mandil up here in the booth. Another great week of racing, but we're not done just yet this week. We are off tomorrow and Friday night, so no streams from Ferrari Challenge this week, and also no stream from the Virtual Racing League. We will be at Sonoma Raceway for the Outsider Cup Series on Saturday using that brand new NASCAR package. 750 horsepower, a whole lot of downforce, going to be a lot of fun. Again, Sonoma Raceway on Saturday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A couple of new graphic overlay adjustments. These widgets that you're looking at right now will all look a little bit different, and we'll have more season stats and that sort of thing added to the themes in the future. So keep an eye out on Saturday for that. Sunday we got 3 wide, and Monday we got 3 wide. Tuesday we're back with Grid Life and Fuel, and Fuel is at Atlanta next week, so that'll be a fun one. Wednesday, we're back here again for the Charlotte Roval. So that's what's coming up on SimTV the next week. We want to give a huge shout out to OG Racing and Radial Tire for coming on board and sponsoring this series and allowing us to do this in a simulated environment. We also want to thank our special guest tonight, Mark Liller, who is one of the assistant directors of road racing from the DC region SCCA. We want to thank him for his kindness coming out and talking to us and helping us understand exactly why esports is such a fantastic addition to any auto racer's life, and also explaining the whole competition school coming up in a couple weeks. But that is it, our broadcast tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week at the Charlotte Roval. Have a good night.